When you look at bricks, they've been about for thousands of years.
The art of brickmaking hasn't changed, but equipment and surroundings have.
They still use those sort of 4 key ingredients being clay, shale, water and fire. But we've been able to innovate and reinvigorate brick as a design and style material.
There's all kinds of new technology, but making brick hasn't changed. I have books that show from Egypt, they basically made them the exact same way. Same process. They would stick them in a mold, tamp them down, shave them off, take them out, and then sit them on the ground, let them dry in the sun, and then they would stack them up and throw wood in them and catch them on fire, and that's how they would cook them.
And it's not dissimilar to what they used to do. Back in the day, in the early parts of Australia, they used clay and they threw it into a wooden box, and then they set fire to the bricks in essentially like a big bonfire. And those bricks were then cooled down and then stacked, packed and used for brickwork in the buildings that we see today.
From the early days of brickmaking, where bricks were handmade by the convicts, there's been so many technological advances that have come through the business.
Now, we stick them through a dryer to control it so we can do it faster, so we can get more volume. Same with the kiln. You actually have fire that's pushed in through natural gas, methane gas. There's all kinds of different things you can use. It just makes it a lot smoother, consistent process. Throughout Australia especially, you look at the pressed reds, see a lot darker because they'll be really inconsistent, because if you fire on the outside versus the inside, it'll be a different look. Whereas now, going through our tunnel kilns, they're going to be almost dead on consistent.
We've got some posters up on the windows that are printed documents from over 100 years ago, and it's got a picture of the guy shoveling coal from a cart into the kiln. It's really a good indication of how far the industry has come.
Probably in the 1880s is when they really started developing a brick machine, a machine to make the brick itself. But since the 60s, you went from a lot of hand setting to what we call a bag setter to robots. JC Steel 90 extruder, it was made in 1963. Hasn't changed other than a few hoses and a couple different bolts on it. The only thing they've changed is how you do stuff.
Brickworks is Australia's leading building products manufacturer, producing bricks across 4 key brick brands: Austral Bricks, New Brick, Bowral Bricks, and Daniel Robertson Bricks. Within each brand, there are curated ranges that deliver different looks, styles, aesthetics, and engineering properties, including custom shapes and styles to meet any market demand. Every brick is manufactured to the highest standard, utilising a specific mix of ancient brickmaking processes, modern technology, and skilled expertise. Across the business, Brickworks manufactures mud bricks, pressed bricks, and extruded bricks, offering the right brick for every application.
New Brick name has been around for 150 years. It was the Victorian brand that was a household name here, and it is the main source of architecture, especially in the inner suburbs. At the moment, it still gets sold into housing, but it's all really premium housing. It's a premium product. It's still very popular in architectural jobs because of the solid nature of the brick. It has a lot of crazing small cracks that give it that authenticity. The recycled brick market is predominantly the old pressed bricks that were made in the factories here back in the early 1900s and all the way through to the 1950s. We have the presses that were at the old plant that have been refurbished into our plant. That equipment is back from the 1960s, which makes beautiful, authentic bricks.
Bowral Bricks are one of Australia's oldest brick brands, recognised perhaps most famously for the Bowral Blue, a dry pressed brick typified by perfect edges, smooth faces and deep, rich colour.
The Bowral plant is unique in that, it goes back a long, long time, dating back to 1922. We produce a range of colours at Bowral Bricks. The signature product being Bowral Blues. Dominant colours out there in the market, Metal Silvers, Gertrudis Brown and Capital Red. The product is pressed as opposed to extruded. Offers a lot of flexibility because you're pressing and allows you to make special shapes, which are an area which dominates the architectural market. The history goes back many, many years. The Capitol Theatre is an example of a product which came from Bowral. Over the years, Bowral bricks have advanced how bricks were made. They used to be made as mud bricks. The dry press process is an evolution in that process, and we've continued to evolve over the years.
Manufacturing bricks in the town of Longford from quarried clays and shales from ancient deposits across Tasmania, Daniel Robertson Bricks, established in 1853, is Brickworks' oldest brick brand, now sold across Australia. In stark contrast to Barrel Brick and New Brick, Daniel Robertson products are known for their rugged face and the uniqueness of one brick to the next.
The history of Daniel Robertson bricks goes right back to early colonisation times. In the 60s, they started utilising the unique colours and the textures they got out of their dome draft kiln into bricks. What typifies the Daniel Robertson range is, if you ask the customers to answer that question, they would say it's character, and it's all about the subtle blends. There's no Daniel Robertson brick that you could say was in a certain era. You know, that could have been made yesterday, could have been 100 years ago. It's still relevant today. When I think of Daniel Robertson bricks, I just think of that natural variation and texture. We're always known in the market for being the best architectural products out there and being unique for their character. So they built a really strong business back then, and it lasted, you know, the test of time.
So how are bricks made? Central to the brick manufacturing process are the raw materials. This is where it all begins. Ancient, earthy materials deliver the unique colour, structure and specific material properties of hundreds of different bricks available on the market today.
The process for making a brick starts out here in the quarry. So we mine essentially two different types of clay, plastic clay and reef clay. Now there's varieties of both, and you use both clays to blend together to get the right composition to make your brick.
We're fortunate here at Barrow in that, you know, the manufacturing site is located next to good reserves in terms of material, raw material. 80% of our material is mined here.
These factories were located here because this is a source of clay materials in the area. So through the layers as you mine down, the amount of weathering changes the colour and the properties of the clay. And we take them layer by layer, so we can actually segregate the different colours and different properties.
A stockpile could be 100,000 tonnes, and a cost for that stockpile might be $10 a tonne. You've got $1 million investment in one stockpile.
The last thing we want is to have 50 different products and then 50 complete different recipes. So we really try and streamline that as much as possible. We have a geologist involved that starts out in the quarry. He helps put together our clay mixes.
A lot of the clays in Tasmania are 200 million years old, the Permian age group. You need to have the right shales, clays, and a combination of those materials to not only get the colour that you're after or the texture, but also it's got to be able to be manipulated through your processes without impacting the quality.
Once clays and shales have been selected and are quarried from the earth, the skilled hand of man and centuries of knowledge take the stage.
Once those stockpiles are created, we use that clay and we transfer it in through a clay shed where we do some primary crushing, and then we take it into the mill for grinding or crushing in the mill.
That material is then soured in the bay. The longer it sours, the better. The souring process involves evenness of the moisture throughout the brick. If the material is a little bit too dry, it'll absorb some moisture from the atmosphere. If the material is a little bit too wet, some of that moisture will travel evenly throughout the mix.
Modern brickmaking in Australia is typified by three main manufacturing processes, with extrusion being the most recent.
The next step is then to grind the material in preparation for extrusion. Grind the material through a hole which is then screened to the correct particle size. At this point, some moisture and additives are added. The material is sheared and prepared for the extrusion. An auger is a large spiral which rotates and pushes the dirt and extrudes it through a die or a small hole. The auger compacts the dirt into the die and it forms the shape of the brick.
And the extruder is where we really compact it and force it out the mouth of the extruder into a brick or a column that will then be cut into pieces that gives you our brick.
Another method of manufacture is pressed bricks. Pressed brick manufacturing evolved at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and includes both wet-pressed and dry-pressed bricks. It took the handmade mud brickmaking process and improved on it by utilising a powerful compression force to create precise forms and material integrity. Pressed brick manufacturing brought the art of brickmaking into the 20th century, a brick style and brickmaking approach that still persists today. New brick is a wet-pressed brick with a lower percentage water content than extruded bricks at 14 to 16%. Slightly higher than dry-pressed bricks. This, combined with the selected raw materials, gives new brick products a slicker brick face with unique crazings and particulate smearing that gives these bricks their character.
Pressed brick is a solid brick. It doesn't have the core holes in the middle. It's when it actually comes into the factory. So instead of going through the extruder like the majority of our product, it comes into press boxes. The clay coming out of the quarry is exactly the same as our extruded bricks. So we have 6 press boxes in our process. The clay will literally come into the box, get pressed in, and then be delivered out and come through the conveyor 1 brick at a time. It has a lot more tolerance through the product, and the face of the product has a lot of face cracks and crazing, we call it. It gives it that authenticity.
Barrel bricks are dry-pressed bricks and utilise material mixes with a lower water content of between 10 to 12% to produce a sharp-edged brick with a grained texture in the finished product. Like all pressed brick plants, the historic press machines at the Barrel plant were specially designed to process the unique combination of shales and clays available on site.
Dry press manufacture is a traditional process where clay is formed using pressure top and bottom to press the product.
The difference between dry press and extruded is that the moisture content is fairly low. Pressed brick is made by putting material into a mould and then subjecting it to high tonnage of force, which presses the material to form a solid brick. Dry pressed brick is effectively a solid brick with a little frog indentation at the top. The mould determines the shape of the brick. So one of our strengths here is we can make hundreds of different shapes, and each press has a unique identifier which is in the frog. Now, after firing the product, we can trace where exactly that brick was made, which press.
One of the most ancient forms of brickmaking was mud bricks, also known as sandstocks, which emerged alongside the birth of human civilization itself. Technologies and knowledge have improved, but mud brick manufacturing remains as it always has been, with clots still formed and thrown in boxes before being stamped, pressed, then moulded.
What does sandstock product look like? This looks like a handmade brick. Each brick is a unique brick. No 2 bricks will look the same, and that's the look we're going for. Differentiate between them as mud bricks. You're mixing the dirt with water, getting mud, so to speak, and throwing it into a mould, where each brick will look like an individual handmade crafted brick. So once we get the dirt into a mixer, it's mixed with water. A certain time needs to be mixed for to get the right consistency of mud. When the right consistency is met, the mixer will open up a door and you get a large clot. There's more mixing happening there, more consistency as well, to make sure it's all consistent, of the same texture and form. That gets pushed out through the clot. There's a wire that cuts it. You end up what resembles a handmade brick. From there on, there's fingers that will catch it, then throws it into a mould. On its way being thrown, it's getting covered with sawdust or sand, depending on the brick, to give us that texture from the outside. It gets thrown into the mould, will come through the presser again. It gets topped up, so it's 100% brick now. It gets pressed in the rest of it. As it comes out, it gets pushed out of the mould, sits onto a tray. We have trays with 16 bricks on each one. Those will get stacked in what we call a stillage. So it's a large tray with wheels on it, rail wheels. Those will get pushed all the way into the dryer, and the dryer will sit for up to 2.5 days for it to dry enough to get the moisture out of it. Now it's solid enough, strong enough to be stacked on top of each other on a kiln car for it to go to the kiln.
Consistency of appearance, quality of product, and engineering properties all depend on the brick firing process. Knowledge and technologies have reshaped the way this critical part of brickmaking is undertaken.
The first stage of the drying process is where the material shrinks a lot. The particles in the brick are just getting closer and closer and closer together. Once all of the water is removed and the particles of the brick then start to come in contact with each other, then you can increase your drying rate and dry the brick more aggressively.
Once you dry the product, you then put it through the kiln. By changing the firing process for the same material, we can get a vast array of different colours.
With manipulating the conditions in the kiln, as well as adding embody additives to the product, we can get a number of effects. We can take the brick right to the edge of what we call bloating and sticking to really give that overfired look in some of the ranges and some of the products. And that's given us the real capability to bring in that natural variation and difference that most factories around Australia or around the world couldn't achieve in one site.
We've got a process we call reduction, where you deliberately create a gas-rich environment in the kiln, and depending on your temperatures and how you control your gas ratios, you get different shades of colours that range from grey to blue. Different products will react differently in the kiln, And to get different colors and different effects on the bricks, we've got to take them through different firing curves. Once the product has gone through that vitrification, the process of cooling has got to be controlled as well.
The first stage of cooling can be rather quick. Most kilns will have what's called a rapid cool zones, and they'll cool the brick down as quickly as possible to between 600 and 700 degrees.
The brick has to change structure and size, and we have to do it gently.
We need to slow it down and hold it at that cooling temperature rate for quite some time. After the bricks have exited the kiln, it's then time to package them and prepare them to be stored or transport to the customer.
Our packaging lines will take the bricks off the kiln car via a gantry. They'll then move them on to what we call a lower rater, which makes our brick packs, and our brick packs are strapped.
And then we stockpile that into the yard, ready to be loaded to the building sites.
But brick manufacturing is only the first step for Brickworks. Quality control is at the core of everything that Brickworks does and forms the foundation of their success.
Quality starts from the ground up. That starts in the mines and the people that we employ.
To come up with a recipe, it's all about trial and error. More than just looking at the raw materials and understand them, or as far as the colours and the typical properties, we like to dive right into the composition of each individual raw materials.
Throughout the process, we've got quality assurance and quality checks, dimensions of the bricks before they even put through the dryer. And after you fire the product, you also look at the colour. We've got master samples, which we always match to.
So we make sure we test the bricks to all Australian standards to meet the minimum requirements of the Building Code of Australia, but also to meet Brickworks' minimum level of expectation for quality. And at Brickworks, we're really strict on making sure that everything meets that standard before they ever leave the yard, so that we can guarantee that our bricks do last a long time. That's how we can give a 100-year warranty on our products.
Every single brick that we process is seen by someone before it goes onto a pallet and before it goes to a customer, whether that's through the dehacker, where the dehacker operator is checking the bricks as they come through, or it's by the hand stackers who are actually hand blending and hand stacking them onto pallets. They are all checked. This is what guarantees the consistency and quality over all Brickworks products.
Ensuring product quality is essential in the brick manufacturing business. But innovation in brickmaking is what sets Brickworks ahead of its competitors, and is the reason their business motto is innovate everywhere, every day.
Our commitment to innovation at Brickworks is what makes us the leading brickmaker in Australia.
So bricks have really remained unchanged for thousands of years. Through technology, robotics, extensive R&D processes, we've been able to reinvigorate brick as a design style material.
How do we challenge ourselves to do something bigger and better or another way? And that whole practice for our team is all of that.
Some of the stuff they do now I never thought of, not in a million years. That's probably one of the most amazing things here is the imagination and whimsy by which these people will come up with designs for brick. And I'm just, wow, how did you even think of that?
Those little ideas and concepts and little features that maybe an operator or the maintenance team came up with. That's where I've seen the greatest uniqueness, I guess you could say, from each plant.
What we've done is we've used the same sort of techniques and then fast forwarded to the 21st century.
The move to extrusion technology from pressing, the improvements to kilns over the years to be able to have sealed kilns that kept the heat in so we could fire the bricks more consistently, electronics, PLC controllers that enable the mechanisation in the brick factories, using kiln cars, automation, robotics now. It means that we can make more consistent and better quality bricks.
What sets Brickworks apart from the competition, I think, is pretty clear. We are very strong in innovation. We are very keen on producing products that last forever, but that are also extremely fashionable.
Automation's been the big key. The total automation, things done by hand to things done automatically today. 4 men or 6 men will do it. You've now got 1 or 2 men doing it. As kilns have evolved, as technology's evolved, there's many ways of creating efficiencies. Dome kilns to beehive kilns, the old beehive kiln, pack it all in, close it all up, hit the flames and see what happens, and off you went. To dome kilns where you tried to control it a little bit, to under-deck fired kilns. When I first started, kilns were under-deck fired kilns. So I was lucky enough to see under-deck fired kilns get converted to lane firing. We can control every single burner. We can turn it on and off the way we want it. We can control the gas flow, the air flow to it. Back in the old days, you couldn't.
As a key building products manufacturer in Australia, sustainability is important to every aspect of Brickworks as a company. its customers, staff, community and stakeholders. Brickworks takes pride in having a company-wide approach to the future of both their products and the earth.
We're always looking at ways that we can improve from an environmental point of view.
Whatever we waste, we recycle going back in. When I first started, the bricks were broken, they'd be thrown out. Compared to where we are today, better extrusion, better setting, better water control, better clay preparation, waste is continually coming down.
Brickworks had the first carbon neutral brick on the market with our Daniel Robertson range.
The Daniel Robertson range and also all the bricks here made at Longford are certified as carbon neutral. We were the first brick manufacturer in Australia to be certified as carbon neutral.
How we achieve that is through the reduced carbon emissions that you get through using sawdust. 50 times less carbon is emitted firing through sawdust rather than natural gas.
So the sawdust we use here on site is actually a byproduct of local sawmills around the state. So instead of it going to landfill, it comes here and we can use it in our kiln.
We essentially truck it in from their site each day. It needs to be screened, dried, and then from there it's conveyed pneumatically through a number of hoses that feed the burners in the tunnel kiln. Our kiln is unique in the way that it fires the sawdust. Through sawdust you get different effects in the kiln that you just can't achieve with gas. We get a natural reduction on the top where there's an excess amount of fuel compared to the oxygen in the kiln environment. It reacts with the iron oxides or the various oxides in the natural clay build-up of sawdust in certain areas that give another little flash mark that you just wouldn't get in a gas kiln, and that's what gives us really that character that helps the Daniel Robertson range.
We're already carbon neutral here at Longford, so we're one step ahead going into the future. That's just going to become more and more important.
So the things that Brickworks have done to reduce our carbon emissions have been to continue focusing on manufacturing excellence through improvements in equipment, consolidation of facilities, but we've also utilised opportunities in alternative fuels to use renewable energy straight into our kilns. We'll be doubling the volume of sustainable products by 2025.
Brickworks has worked tirelessly to ensure that for every building project, no matter how big or small, there's a Brickworks brick that's a perfect match for the job. And if there isn't, then it will be made.
One of the other reasons why we are the leading manufacturer in the country is because we listen and develop products that our customers want. We deal with various target audiences, whether that's a consumer, building a new home, builders, architects, or engineers. We talk to our customers continually to ensure that the new products we're looking to develop, we get their input. And one of the ways we stay ahead of the trends is that we look to collaborate with leading trend forecasters and colour consultants to identify what's coming up in the future and how we can then develop that into our product development. So it's not just about the trends in Australia, but what trends are happening internationally. We talk to the colour teams in all the businesses, but also at the same time, we talk to the architects.
They will come up with ideas that you won't dream of, but it's up to us to then work with them to work out what we've got to produce so as we can give them their vision.
We don't just make products that we feel are going to be good for the market, we make products that we feel the market want.
The market demands a lot of things from a brick, but mainly it's for its structural purpose and aesthetic beauty. We make a range of sizes, colours, shapes, textures.
Bricks that supply the residential market here to bricks that suit the export market in New Zealand and Korea and Japan, which have different core patterns, different size dimensions in their standards. The target market is in the architectural space. What's popular in the architectural space becomes popular in the residential space too. We make anywhere between 4 to 6 million Daniel Robertson bricks a year. We're expecting that to only increase. We're getting demand we have not seen before for a very long time.
It's important from Brickworks' perspective to make the customer journey as easy as possible, particularly when it comes to choosing the exterior materials for a home. We created mood boards and colour palettes to help customers understand what colours go with what, helping them work through what could be seen as a difficult or daunting process.
Brickworks wouldn't be the company it is today without the people that together form the business as a whole and create beautiful products that last forever, every day.
Brickworks bricks are the best bricks in the industry because they're built by people who care and love what they're doing.
From the time it comes out of the pit till the time it comes out of the kiln, it's an amazing process. It's like playing chess, but that's the best way to describe it. Making mud pies and playing with fire.
You look at what someone would call dirt, and you transform that into a dominant feature in a building or a house. It's just fascinating.
Brickworks is an amazing place to work. Every day we get to do something different. We get to work with amazing architects and designers on new buildings and special projects where we can create custom products.
We're all very proud of what we make. I think that's the underpin of our culture.
Brickworks really invest in their own people.
Very proud to be part of the Brickworks family.
What I really love about working at Brickworks, particularly in a marketing role, is that no one day is ever the same. As a team, we're only really as good as the work we did yesterday. So it's always about what's coming up, how do we innovate, how do we become better, how do we stay ahead of our competitors. And I think that challenge is very rewarding.
There's been many different products that have come and go in the past that have tried to compete with brick, but none of them last the way that a brick lasts.
The most sustainable building material in the world, and I can't see it ever being surpassed.
You can go through the suburbs, you can go through the city, you can see your own product. It's featured on the outside, it brings the character to the house.
And the fact that you can drive down the street and see what you've made every day is really rewarding.
We probably see at least 8 out of 10 homes built in Australia with some form of brickwork.
Our bricks are guaranteed for 100 years, so there's a lot of confidence in what we actually do.
Brickworks is Australia's leading brick maker because of our dominance in quality and service, and we pride ourselves in making beautiful products that last forever.